While doing laundry, I discovered an incredible secret in my daughter-in-law's coat pocket that shattered my perception of our family. I had been tackling the endless mountain of clothes for what felt like an eternity, each fold a reminder of the mundane solitude I had grown accustomed to since my husband's unexpected departure. The faded fabric of Emily's coat caught my eye. It was the usual routine to check each pocket, but today felt different, almost foreboding. I reached in, and my fingers grazed something crumpled. Pulling it out, I smoothed the letter against the countertop, my heart pounding with apprehension. The words unfolded a hidden tapestry of betrayal that felt like a smack to the face. Emily wasn't just my daughter-in-law. Her life was stitched with secrets, fabric from a stained lineage I'd never known existed. A once revered family now bound by scandal and tragedy. How could she have kept this from me? And what did that mean for the son I'd raised? The room felt suffocating as I wrestled with a mix of anger and vulnerability. My heart whispered kinship, beckoning me to empathize with Emily, yet my mind screamed betrayal. Had I simply been a prop in her story, clinging to a fabricated life? Desperation clawed at my throat, and I could feel the walls of my well-ordered existence closing in on me. Each tick of the clock echoed the panic settling like dust in the corners of my mind. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. I started digging through old town records and seeking stories from the elders lining the quiet main street, hoping the whispers of the past might provide clarity. What would I discover? My fingers tingled with curiosity and dread as I shifted through the cobwebbed archives. With each clue, ancient truths unraveled, spiraling past memories, unearthed heartbreaks mingling with familiar faces. My determination grew alongside the suspicion that Emily belonged to a world I barely knew. The painful irony hit. Here I was, yearning for connection, yet painfully aware of the grip prejudice had over my soul. Could I ever trust her again? Each stroke of my paintbrush invited my hidden emotions to dance, vibrant colors spilling chaos onto canvas. Can art heal what grief has tarnished? The bubbling pot of emotions within me demanded a confrontation with reality. As I grappled with Emily's revelation, my hands trembled, betraying my flickering resolve. Resting the brush, I felt the sweet taste of freedom on the horizon but clung stubbornly to the weight of bias ingrained in me. I was caught in a silent storm, the consequences hovering overhead, waiting to strike. Just as I steeled myself to choose, a knock resonated through the empty halls of our home, a sound I hadn't heard in ages. It jolted me from my spiraling thoughts, and I felt a hitch in my breathing. Who could that be? And what secrets could this stranger potentially unveil that would transform this fragile moment even further? The knock echoed again, a sharp puncture in the thick air of my home. Each sound reverberated through my chest, and my mind raced with frantic possibilities about who might be standing at my door. I glanced around the room, each corner adorned with memories, each shadow a remnant of a once carefree life. Suddenly, standing still felt unbearable. My breath quickened as I approached the door, the floor creaking beneath my hesitant steps. Though my mind screamed at me to turn away, I grasped the doorknob and twisted, mentally bracing myself for whatever revelation lay beyond. Would this person provide the answers I sought, or deepen my confusion? As I opened the door, the late afternoon sunlight bathed the figure standing before me in golden hues. A woman, not much older than my son, appeared at my doorstep with a soft expression that felt disarmingly familiar. She introduced herself as Claire, a friend of Emily's. My initial surprise morphed into a sinking feeling in my gut. Why was she here? I know this must be sudden, Claire began, her voice steady yet imbued with urgency. Please, can I come inside? There's something important we need to discuss. The word important lingered like a warning in the air, and I stepped aside, heart pounding as she crossed the threshold. The walls of my sanctuary felt like they were closing in, and the tension hung thick as we both took a seat at the small kitchen table. Claire's eyes darted around, absorbing the mundane surroundings that felt now charged with unspoken secrets. "Emily hasn't always been able to share her truth," Claire began softly, her tone a mix of sympathy and resolve. I felt my chest tighten at the mention of my daughter-in-law. Did everyone in her life carry the weight of undisclosed secrets? Before I could formulate a response, Claire continued, "There are elements of her past that have shaped her in ways you might not comprehend." I felt anger flaring within me. What could possibly justify the deception that hung so heavy over our family? Yet beneath the anger, a chord of curiosity reverberated. What had Emily endured that would lead her to hide such a significant part of herself? Each question added weight to my internal conflict. As Claire spoke of Emily's childhood, the trials that had molded her into who she was, I could see the passion etched in her features. I wanted to connect with this narrative, to transform the accusatory tension into something palpable and real. How could I do this without letting the chaos of emotion overwhelm me? "I've seen the struggles she faces," Claire said, her voice trembling. "It isn't just about her family, it's about her identity, about feeling accepted. You deserve to know who she is beyond the surface." The words struck deep, striking at my long-held beliefs about loyalty and trust. As I listened, I felt something shift within me, a small crack in my rigid facade. Could I allow myself to understand Emily, to step beyond my own biases and fears? Just then, an unexpected wave of courage washed over me. Perhaps the brush had begun to clear murky waters, hinting at a truth beyond the immediate. If understanding was the bridge, then I had to ask the questions that had long festered within me. "I'm willing to listen," I said finally, my voice steadier than I felt. "But there's so much I don't understand." Claire's expression softened, and for the first time, I recognized the possibility of reclaiming my narrative amidst the chaotic turmoil. Before us lay a chance to peel back the layers, but I knew the journey would demand vulnerability. As Claire began to explain, weaving the tale of Emily's struggles and triumphs, I felt my heart racing with the promise of redemption. Yet, a lingering sense of dread remained. The depths of betrayal were not yet fully uncovered. What if connecting revealed even darker truths? The weight of the unknown pressed upon me. I yearned for clarity but feared what it might unearth. With every story Claire revealed, I was drawn deeper into a labyrinth of complicated family ties where justification and judgment danced dangerously close. And as the shadows lengthened outside, another knock broke the fragile tension. A third presence loomed on the horizon, one I could not predict, threatening to unravel everything I was beginning to understand. The third knock shattered the moment and sent a shiver down my spine. A growing anxiety cocooned me as I exchanged a glance with Claire, her expression mirroring my apprehension. A breath filled my lungs, yet I wasn't sure if it was courage or dread. I'll get it," I stammered, instinctively stepping toward the door, feeling as if each step farther ripped away at the solid ground of my understanding. As I approached, a surge of conflicting emotions swirled within me: anxiety, anger, curiosity mingled in a whirlwind. Hadn't I been trying to confront the unknown? I could approach the door as a reckless adventurer or as a coward running from confrontation. The door creaked open, revealing a figure cloaked in shadows. It was a man, his face partially obscured by the fading light, yet something about his posture seemed familiar. I gripped the door tighter, heart racing, trying to pinpoint the source of my unease. "Do I know you?" The question slipped from my lips, powered by instinct rather than certainty. "Not yet," he replied, though his voice tugged at the edges of my memory like a haunting refrain. He took a step forward, enough for the light to catch his features. Recognition dawned slowly. It was David, Emily's brother. My gut tightened as his troubled gaze fixed on me. "Can I come in?" he asked, but it wasn't a plea. It felt more like a demand wrapped in caution. I hesitated, the tension playing out in silence, while Claire remained observable, her eyes darting back and forth between us, weighing possibilities. Allowing him in felt like inviting a storm into a delicate, already fractured peace. "Now? Right after this revelation?" "Yes, right now." His tone shifted, urgency seeping through every word. The walls reverberated with the weight of what was unspoken as I slowly stepped aside, my instincts still screaming to resist. David entered, deliberately scanning the room, leaving an imprint of his energy in the air, blending with the other unspoken truths. "Why are you here?" I finally managed, the question laced with my need for clarity. The air crackled with anticipation, a dangerous dance between curiosity and fear. David took a deep breath, the inhale filled with hesitation. "I need to talk about Emily." Each word seemed to pull the floor from beneath me as I struggled to steady myself, caught between the revelations of Claire and the looming dread of this meeting. I motioned towards the kitchen table, needing to contain this conversation tightly around us. Claire joined us, her presence a testament to the vulnerability we all carried. The three of us were tangled in a web of unspoken ties. The secrets began to weave an intricate portrait of contradictory feelings. "She's struggling," David said abruptly, each word resonating with urgency. His eyes locked on mine, a silent plea couched in his intensity. "She's afraid to show who she truly is." A rush of indignation flared up in me, yet I could feel the familiar threads of empathy wrestling for control of my thoughts. Why couldn't she trust me? I wondered, a question tumbling into the dark recesses of my heart, revealing the core of my longing understanding and connection. "She thinks you won't accept her," David continued softly. "Her past has made her cautious, distrustful." The revelation struck me like a cold splash of water, ricocheting against my earlier resolve. "Past?" I echoed, the word heavy with implications I had yet to fully grasp. "I was hoping you'd understand how deeply the ties run," David's voice wavered, hinting at something he wasn't ready to fully share. "It's not just about Emily anymore." A long silence enveloped us, my heart a drumbeat of uncertainty. Claire's earlier words echoed, providing context, urging me to look beyond what was on the surface. As the pieces of Emily's story began to gather around me, I felt a growing determination to confront these revelations head-on. "I want to help," I said firmly, drawing from a place I didn't know existed. The urge to uncover the truth pushed me forward, but with every ounce of courage came the weight of doubt could I handle. What was revealed next? As the shadows stretched longer, holding our collective breath, I couldn't shake the feeling of impending confrontation. What new truths awaited? What hidden threads would unspool under the pressure of our revelations? With each tick of the clock, another mystery demanded to be uncovered, leaving me with just one question. What more could David reveal that would challenge everything I thought I knew about Emily? David's eyes fixed on me, the weight of his unspoken words intensifying the air between us. I could see the urgency swimming behind his gaze, a well of emotion begging to spill over. It was clear he had strayed into uncharted waters, and I was suddenly aware of my role in this ongoing saga unfolding before me. "What else do you know?" I pressed, feeling the determination surge within me. My heart raced, not just with fear, but with a prickling sense of responsibility. David took a deep breath, his brow furrowing as if preparing for a plunge into icy waters. "I'm not just here to talk about Emily. I need you to know about our family, how her past connects to me," he admitted, his voice quiet yet insistent. Each syllable felt like a revelation in itself, unraveling the tightly woven fabric of my understanding. "What about your family?" Claire interjected, her curious gaze shifting between us like a pendulum. David's eyes lingered on her momentarily, then returned to me, as if confirming that this was our shared secret, destined to reshape our perspectives. "She's my sister. But we've been estranged for years," he said, the admission layered with a multitude of emotions. "Because of what happened when we were younger. I thought she'd moved past it, but it seems the scars still run deep." As David spoke, a weight settled in my stomach, his words stitching together a darker narrative that I had never anticipated. Scars? What happened? I found myself asking, my mind whirring as I absorbed the implications. The revelation altered everything I thought I knew about both Emily and David. There was an incident, a car accident. It took my parents and left me and Emily to fend for ourselves. Emily, she always blamed herself, he continued, his voice trembling slightly. The words echoed painfully, revealing the fragility of her trust. I could feel the tension coiling tighter around us. The connection between Emily's past and her present was becoming terrifyingly clear, and I realized I had a growing desire, not only to help Emily but to unravel my own complications in this scenario. Is this why she won't let anyone in? Is that why she's terrified? Claire's voice broke through my thoughts, her understanding tinged with sadness. David nodded, the corners of his mouth turning down involuntarily, reflecting the shared burden of their history. I thought if I came here and spoke to you, maybe I could convince her to let you help her. You understand feelings in ways I never could, he admitted, the vulnerability in his admission catching me off guard. My pulse quickened as I realized that David was placing a great deal of faith in me, a complete stranger to him, yet someone who had become a crucial part of Emily's life. I took a moment to process the weight of his request. You want me to help her embrace her past? To push her to confront those demons? The question hung in the air like a pendulum, swaying between reluctance and the undeniable urge to act. Yes. She trusts you, David stated firmly, his intensity sharpening in response to my hesitation. And I think you can reach the part of her that's hidden beneath the surface. It's time for her to know that she's not alone anymore. His plea wrapped around me, challenging the cracks in my own foundations. For too long, I'd allowed my own fears to govern my actions, trembling at the thought of emotional vulnerability. Now, the stakes felt more significant than my personal discomfort. This wasn't just about Emily, it was about breaking chains that had tethered both of us, her to her past, and me to my fears. As I absorbed his words, a bond of determination began to weave itself between us, kindling a quiet resolve. I could feel a shift in my spirit, an expectation of what lay ahead. It would not be easy, but if I was to dive into the depths of Emily's struggles, I needed to shed my own hesitations about vulnerability. I'll try, I said finally, my voice steadier, more assertive. For Emily, I will try. David's grateful expression confirmed my decision. Yet, beneath that surface gratitude was a storm of uncertainty. What more waited in the shadows? This uncharted territory threatened to expose not just Emily's vulnerabilities but my own too. As the first tendrils of a plan began to surface, I caught a glimpse of the rocky path ahead. A path that would require me not only to confront Emily's fears but also to face the truth about my own. What door would this newfound resolve open, and how will we navigate the revelations yet to come? I couldn't shake the whirlwind of anticipation looming just beyond the horizon of our conversation. Would I uncover the truth or be consumed by it? Only time would tell. A sense of urgency settled over me like a heavy cloak as I left the hushed conversation behind. The reality of what David had unveiled sank deeper, transitioning from abstract concern to a palpable weight pressing on my chest. His revelation about Emily felt monumental, charging my thoughts with waves of responsibility, confusion, and an undeniable spark of determination. Each step I took away from David drew me closer to a decision, the type that would define the contours of my own character. A familiar sense of anxiety clawed at me. The moment I had agreed to help Emily felt like standing on the precipice of a vast, dark chasm. Would I really be able to reach her? The thought spiraled, but the deeper question lingered: could I confront my own reflection in that abyss? This revelation, however daunting, offered a mirror, an opportunity to face not just Emily's ghosts but my own. I made my way back home, my mind racing. I recalled the countless times I had shied away from genuine connections, the moments I had brushed aside suffering for the sake of comfort. Was I merely transferring my emotional armor onto Emily? As I walked, a sense of clarity began to weave itself through the chaos. Maybe my past experiences, my own flawed understanding of vulnerability, could be the very source of strength for both me and Emily. At home, the mundane activities of everyday life buzzed around me. I immersed myself in routine cooking, tidying, the laundry. The rhythm was soothing, yet beneath the surface, an urgency simmered. I paused by the dryer, the warmth radiating against my skin, thinking about the journey ahead. It felt ironic how everyday tasks often served as a backdrop to the storms brewing inside us. In a momentary lapse of focus, my hand brushed against a coat pocket. Curiosity piqued, I reached inside, half expecting to find a forgotten tissue or a loose coin. Instead, my fingers wrapped around something stiff and unyielding. Pulling it out, I discovered an envelope, pristine yet out of place. The weight of it felt too significant to ignore. As I opened it, a profound sense of trepidation washed over me. The contents inside, a letter hastily scribbled, a patchwork of emotions spilled onto the page, took my breath away. It was from Emily. Each word bared her soul in a way I hadn't expected. Fear, regret, and a haunting sense of longing dripped from the page. It was a raw confession of feelings never voiced, a desperate plea for understanding cloaked in shame. "I wish I could let go," she had written, "but I feel trapped like a ghost in my own life." My heart clenched. The depth of her struggle, so beautifully articulated yet unbearably painful to read, reinforced the urgency of my commitment to help her. What struck me most was not just her pain, it was the fragility underlying her strength. Emily was not simply someone haunted by her past, she was a woman fighting to exist within the shadows. The letter became both a lifeline and a catalyst, igniting a fire in me that surged with renewed purpose. Helping her wasn't just about being a guide through her darkness, it meant I would have to embrace my own. I returned to the living room, the letter cradled in my palm, its message resounding in my conscience. This was our chance to redefine ourselves, to challenge the narratives that had bound us for far too long. The urgency in my heart shifted to a resolve, unyielding and certain. It was clear now, I wasn't simply about to dive into her struggle. I would need something deeper, a confrontation with my past vulnerabilities and a genuine connection with her own. As I prepared to reach out to Emily, I had to wonder, what barriers would I face as I peeled back the layers we had both buried so deeply? Would my own revelations ultimately fortify the bond, or threaten to unravel it? I could feel the pounding of my heart against my ribcage, and as the anticipation thickened, I couldn't help but think, was I ready for the rockiness that lay within our shared journey? A decision loomed, a choice that would lead me down a path I had never considered. Would I have the strength to face what lay ahead? The answer was hanging in the air, waiting for me to embrace it. The following morning felt electric, each moment charged with potential. The sun filtered through the blinds, casting stripes of light that danced across the floor, but even the warmth of the new day couldn't shake off the weight in my chest. I had woken up with a resolute clarity, the letter from Emily pulsing in my mind like a beacon and challenging me to honor her vulnerability by stepping into my own. I grabbed my phone, fingers trembling slightly. This was not about mere words anymore. I tapped out a message to Emily, my heart racing as I hit send. It felt like a plunge into an ocean of uncertainty. The waves looked treacherous, but the possibility of discovery lured me in. She replied almost immediately, words spilling forth like water, revealing a surprise mixture of eagerness and trepidation. "Can we meet today?" The straightforwardness of her ask planted seeds of anxiety within me. What if I faltered? What if, instead of guidance, I only laid bare my own fears? Yet, I couldn't retreat. I felt tethered to an unshakable urge to meet her, to share openly and cultivate a realm of understanding that had eluded both of us for too long. We set a time for later that afternoon, and as I hung up, a sense of fortitude began to fill the hollowness inside me. In the hours leading up to our meeting, I prepared meticulously, but not in conventional ways. Instead of selecting the right cafe or picking the perfect outfit, I dove deep into introspection. What could I truly offer Emily? I considered my own trials, the moments I had hidden behind armor, the times I had chosen silence over authenticity. During a short break, I poured a cup of coffee, inhaling the rich aroma. Memories of hidden conversations about life's burdens swirled through my mind. I reminded myself of the countless times I'd shared an encouraging word with a friend, only to bury my own struggles in the process. I wondered if sharing my truths with Emily could juxtapose our experiences and catalyze healing for both of us. As I headed to the meeting spot, nerves twisted within me. The familiar streets felt alien, a mix of anticipation and dread suffused the air. Each step was an affirmation of my decision to face not only Emily but also those parts of myself I often kept concealed. The barriers built through years of avoidance were about to be tested in ways I couldn't anticipate. When I arrived, the cafe was bustling, yet Emily stood out like a lighthouse amidst stormy seas. I noticed the way her hands fidgeted slightly as she glanced around, nervous, like mine. I approached her table with calculated ease, seeking reassurance in our shared moment of vulnerability. "Hey," I greeted, sitting down slowly, allowing my presence to ground us both. Her smile was tentative, burdened by an awareness of the emotional weight that our discussion would inevitably carry. "I hope you don't mind," she began. "I've been thinking a lot about what I wrote. About feeling trapped." The honesty brimming in her voice ignited something within me. This was the moment, I realized. We were at the precipice of revelation, each of us teetering on the edge, ready to plunge into uncharted depths of our souls. "I've been carrying my own burdens," I confessed, carefully choosing my words to mirror her honesty. "And yet, I've held back, convinced that it's better to suffer in silence." With each exchange, the air thickened with shared emotion, giving rise to a fearless synergy between us. The barriers I had feared began to dissolve, revealing a shared humanity that resonated beyond our respective struggles. Yet, as we fell deeper into conversation, a simmering question lingered at the back of my mind. What revelations awaited me not just within Emily's story, but in confronting my own inner demons? Would my willingness to confront these vulnerabilities forge a stronger bond, or expose cracks in our foundation? The uncertainty loomed large, a shadow stretching over the fragile light of our newfound honesty. I could feel the rumble of implications beneath the surface, each moment charged with the potential for both clarity and chaos. What awaited me in this uncharted territory? The answers were just beyond the horizon, and I was determined to seize them. The conversation unfolded with a magnetic pull, drawing me deeper into the web of shared experience. Emily's eyes sparkled with unguarded emotion, yet I could sense her hesitance, the fear of revealing too much, too soon, the frailty of our newfound connection. The truth felt like a weight pressing down on both of our shoulders, the kind that only profound honesty and vulnerability could alleviate. "Someone once told me that pain shared is pain halved," I said, pushing myself to embrace the notion that vulnerability could be a gift rather than a liability. "But it's hard to believe when you're the one holding all the pieces." The words hung between us, heavy yet inviting. Emily nodded, looking down at her hands, which twisted the edge of her napkin. I wondered what ghosts danced behind her gaze, what stories she kept tucked away from the light. "What if," she began tentatively, "what if that pain is what makes us feel alive, even if it's excruciating?" It was a question that pressed against my ribs, compelling me to confront not just her sentiment, but my own life choices. In my bid to shield myself from discomfort, had I buried the very essence of who I was? Each moment spent in silence was another piece of me lost, another opportunity to discover growth left unexplored. As Emily continued to share her feelings, frustrations clamoring for release, I caught sight of her trembling vulnerability morphing into quiet strength. It was in this space that I felt challenged to push further. She was brave enough to navigate her storm, so why couldn't I? "What's the most challenging part for you?" I probed, instinctively knowing this was critical. "What keeps you from taking the leap into freedom?" The hesitation in her expression shifted to a fierce determination. I think it's the unknown. The fear that maybe stepping into that light wouldn't be worth what I would have to face," she admitted, the vulnerability spilling out like ink on paper. Her admission sparked something in me. "What if the unknown is precisely where we find ourselves?" I said softly. "Maybe confronting that very fear could unlock parts of us we never knew existed." We engaged in a captivating exchange, sharing our thoughts not just as confessions, but as tools for transformation. The conversation morphed from merely an exchange of struggles to a collaborative effort, weaving our complexities into a larger narrative of resilience. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, the cafe engulfed us, and I noticed a shift within myself. Each robust word we exchanged felt like another chisel strike against the stone of my guarded exterior. I felt lighter, not because our struggles had vanished, but because sharing them had begun to work its magic. When the discussion shifted from personal woes to future aspirations, I found a profound sense of clarity emerge. "What do you want to do next?" I asked, my curiosity charging the atmosphere. "I'm not sure," she said, smiling sheepishly, "but I know I want to explore, to create something that feels true to me." There was an intrinsic beauty in her uncertainty, a willingness to embrace life's unpredictability. "Me too," I confessed, my thoughts racing ahead like a train forging a new path. What if this meeting with Emily was merely the first step into a broader journey of self-discovery, a catalyst for fostering new courage? Yet amidst this newfound courage, a glimmer of doubt lingered like embers in the ash. How could I, caught in layers of my own insecurities, step alongside her into the unknown? I felt both empowered and terrified. The leap I needed to take felt both thrilling and daunting. I took a deep breath, the weight of our connection hanging palpably. Let us meet again. We can explore together, talk about our plans, make them real. The prospect filled me with a sense of urgency, a pulse quickening through my veins. With each word exchanged, new paths unraveled, yet beneath the excitement lay a foundational question: what truths would we unearth, and at what cost? The meeting had ignited a spark, but as we parted ways, the path ahead felt shrouded in fog. The potential for transformation loomed, marking the precipice of what was to come, a future that felt both exhilarating and harrowing. What awaited in this pursuit of our newfound truths? The answer promised to be layered with challenges, and I was determined to embrace every moment. The days blurred together as I settled back into my routine, my thoughts often drifting to that pivotal conversation with Emily. Each encounter drew me further into newfound reflections, a sharp contrast to the mundane rhythm of my daily life. I couldn't shake the anticipation every time my phone buzzed, hoping she'd suggest our next meeting. But there was an undercurrent of anxiety that quivered beneath my excitement. The stakes felt impossibly high. Peeling back my layers meant risking exposure. I found myself drawn to the echo of our dialogue, particularly the idea of stepping into the unknown. I kept questioning my decisions, which fears had immobilized me and which fires ignited my passions. The discomfort that had weighed heavily on my heart was slowly morphing into a ripe curiosity, urging me toward an exploration I hadn't dared to entertain before. One evening, during an unusually quiet moment alone, I pulled out my journal. It had been gathering dust, a forgotten vessel of my aspirations. As the ink flowed from my pen, I brainstormed a list of things I wanted to pursue. The simple act of listing felt illuminating: painting, writing, traveling, each word igniting a flicker of possibility within me. Yet, alongside that potential, came the cold grip of doubt. Who was I to channel these ambitions when the ghost of my self-doubt lingered ominously over my shoulder? I chuckled softly, questioning the mentality I had long embraced. Reflection turned inward, following Emily's lead. What was it that scared me the most? It dawned on me, the fear of failure, of walking the path toward dreams only to stumble into a pit of mediocrity. I flipped through my journal pages, and just as I meticulously detailed my ambitions, an unexpected inner voice challenged me: what if stagnance was the true failure? That weekend, I finally reached out to Emily, suggesting we meet at a nearby park. The sun filtered through the leafy canopy, casting playful patterns on the grass. We settled onto a weathered blanket, our energy palpable, sparking with ideas and the lingering trace of our previous conversations. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," I began, gauging her reaction. "Me too," she replied, a mixture of excitement and trepidation in her gaze. "I keep circling back to that discussion about the unknown. Maybe it's what we need to lean into." "You're right," I replied, inspired by her determination. "What if we challenge each other to step into our unknowns together? We could hold ourselves accountable for the risks we take." A smile danced across her face, the spark of our burgeoning partnership filling the space between us. The idea of collaboration pushed the fear back, shining a light on our collective aspirations. It felt weighty yet liberating, a pact that transformed our vulnerability into tangible action. "I want to start painting again," I admitted. "It feels like a part of me I forgot how to access." Emily's eyes lit up. "And I'll help organize a small art show. We can each showcase what we create. Just imagine, a display of truth." The thought was exhilarating and terrifying, a compelling concoction of hesitation and thrill. Imagining our creative sparks meshing felt like infusion of dreams, an embrace of everything we had kept at bay. Feeling buoyed by the camaraderie and possibility, I dove into a realm of planning. But even as our aspirations spiraled into a shared vision, I could sense an unresolved tension simmering inside me. The reality of actually executing these plans loomed closer, testing the foundations of my courage. As twilight descended, I found myself peering into the depths of our intention. What fears would we have to navigate in this journey? Would we face rejection, or worse, the haunting confrontation of our self-doubts? The questions taunted me like shadows creeping closer to my heart. I realized that this next chapter required more than just planning. It demanded a confrontation with the very doubts I had long kept insulated. I would have to break through the boundaries of my comfort, embracing both the exhilarating and the unnerving. It was time to confront not only my ambitions but the deep-seated fears that clung stubbornly to the edges of my identity. With Emily as my partner in exploration, we seemed poised on the edge of something transformative, though what awaited felt as vast and uncharted as the night sky overhead. In the midst of our whispered dreams, one resounding question loomed large: could our aspirations survive the collision with our deepest fears? The following week, I woke up with the sunrise peeking through my window, illuminating the room with a gentle warmth. It served as a silent reminder that each day presented itself anew, a blank canvas filled with unknown possibilities waiting to be painted. I felt a heightened sense of purpose. I had committed to face my fears alongside Emily, and the thought both thrilled and terrified me. With coffee in hand, I flipped through my journal once more. The notes I had written, a collection of dreams intertwined with shards of self-doubt, seemed to pulse with potential. The words danced before me, beckoning for action. Today would mark the beginning of my transformation, or at least I wished to believe so. I resolved to do something bold, to create a small piece of art that I would unveil to Emily later. After a hesitant breakfast, I gathered supplies: paints, brushes, and a canvas. Each item felt heavy with expectation as I set up a makeshift studio in my living room. My hands trembled slightly, distrustful of my own capabilities. What if the colors clashed? What if my brushstrokes were clumsy? The thoughts spun like a wild tornado inside my mind, and I had to remind myself to breathe. With my heart pounding, I dipped my brush into the vibrant blue paint, hesitant yet determined. As I made the first stroke, I felt a flicker of defiance against the voice that dictated my self-worth. This was not the pursuit of perfection, it was an exploration of self. Each stroke became a release, a metaphorical peeling back of layers, as I added textures and colors that represented my inner chaos and excitement. Hours passed unnoticed, the world outside receding into a blur of distant sounds. I lost myself in the colors: reds of passion, yellows of hope, greens that whispered of renewal. In the act of creation, I started to confront my fears. This was more than just art, it was a confrontation with inadequacy. The fear of failure melted away with each stroke. I began to realize that the joy lay not in the outcome but in the process. When I finally stepped back, beads of sweat glistening on my brow, I was astonished at what lay before me. It wasn't just a painting, it was a manifestation of my journey, a tribute to my struggles and aspirations. The emotions, raw and untouched by critique, sang loudly. For the first time in years, I felt an inkling of pride swell in my chest, an emotion I had buried too deeply. Later that night, I met Emily at our usual spot in the park, my heart racing with a blend of excitement and anxiety. As the stars emerged, I laid our shared blanket down, the familiar warmth urging me to unveil my creation. Emily arrived, her eyes alight with curiosity. I made something, I confessed, holding my breath. Her smile encouraged me to continue, and I revealed my canvas with a flourish. The look on her face shifted from intrigue to awe as she absorbed the colors and forms I had created, her silence stretching into an eternity. "It's beautiful," she finally breathed, and I felt a surge of relief. As we discussed the painting, I found myself sharing not just my thoughts but the vulnerability behind each choice I made. I poured my heart into that conversation, revealing fears that had once chained me. Emily listened intently, and I could see her grappling with her own aspirations reflected in our shared experiences. Then came the moment, a leap I hadn't anticipated. What if we invite others to see our work, to join us in this journey? What if we host a small gathering? The words tumbled from my mouth before I could filter them. Emily's eyes shimmered with excitement, but beneath her enthusiasm, I sensed hesitation, a mirror to my own inner turmoil. Are we ready for that? What if they don't understand, or worse, what if they do? The question echoed in my mind, stirring up old insecurities. What if this was just another layer of exposure inviting judgment and critique? Could I truly embrace this next step of vulnerability? The thought ignited a fire in my chest, wrestling with my desire to grow versus the instinct to retreat into safety. In that moment, I faced a defining question. Was I willing to expose my passion and commitment to the world, knowing that ridicule awaited alongside praise? Would I continue to challenge my limits or allow fear to dictate my choices? As Emily and I sat beneath the vast tapestry of stars, the warmth of our newfound determination warring against the chill of uncertainty, I realized the answer was blossoming within me, expanding like my painting, a mix of chaos and beauty waiting to be unleashed. The next question loomed in the air, electrifying our conversation. Were we ready to step beyond our isolated pursuits into the world, risking it all for a chance to share our truths? The sun rose with a golden hue, casting a hopeful light on the day that lay ahead. It marked a new chapter in my life, a day of action and purpose, driven by our shared commitments to face our fears. I felt invigorated, the thrill of potential enveloping me as I contemplated the plan Emily and I had hatched. Determined to turn our idea into reality, I reached for my phone, fingers gliding over the screen as I crafted an invitation. The words flowed easily. It was a transparent call to creativity that wrapped our shared vision into reality. I pressed send, sending the invitation out into the world, a blend of excitement and apprehension swirling in my chest. Could this creative exercise extend beyond the two of us and touch others? The hours stretched on, each tick of the clock filled with anticipation. I replayed iterations of the event in my head. The invitation, the venue, the logistics, it all seemed monumental yet gratifying. Yet, amid the whirlwind of planning, a gripping anxiety began to settle. What if no one showed up? What if our creations flopped? Pushing those thoughts aside, I called Emily later that day, eager to finalize our plans and voice mutual encouragement. Her enthusiasm sparked a flame within me, her laughter infectious, as I articulated my vision for the gathering. It was about connection, not just with our art but with one another, a celebration of the journey we both embarked on through our vulnerabilities. I think we should showcase not only our art but also share our stories, Emily suggested, her voice resonating with conviction. Let our truths coax others to join us. We can call it Through the Layers, a reflection of what we hope to reveal. The name stirred excitement within me. I love it, I exclaimed, picturing our little gathering transforming into a tapestry of shared experiences and growth. In the days leading up to the event, I felt a transformation within me. Each conversation flowed easier, vulnerability became less of a weight and more of a bridge. Sweat poured down my brow as I painted furiously in preparation for the showcase, dedicating myself wholly to the process. I could feel my confidence rally. I had once again connected with a passion that felt long dormant. On the night of the unveiling, the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation, but the fear still flickered in my stomach. I glanced around at the small gathering, friends, family, and some unfamiliar faces, people from all walks of life drawn together by our initiative. It was beautiful and chaotic, a microcosm of life itself. As the evening unfolded, Emily and I stepped up to share our journeys. I felt the familiar comfort of her presence by my side, grounding my resolve as I began to speak. We all carry layers within us, burdens of the past, dreams yet unexpressed. But through sharing vulnerability, we discover connection, I said, my voice steady yet charged with emotion. When I finished, I glanced at Emily, the excitement reflected in her eyes swirling back to me. We invite you all tonight to peel back your own layers, she added, her own passion spilling into the room as she gestured to the vibrant art around us. This was a celebration not of achievement, but of collective struggle and growth. The evening flowed seamlessly from there, people immersing themselves in our creations while sharing their stories in return. Conversations blossomed around the canvas and easels, each dialogue a thread woven into the intricate tapestry of our togetherness. In that moment, I realized how far I had come. I had not only faced my own fears but also allowed them to be part of a larger conversation, a mutual exploration of emotions and truths. The recognition and validation from others hung palpably in the air, like a thread binding all of us through shared experiences. As the evening finally drew to a close, I marveled at the transformation around me, reflecting also on my own journey. I had conquered my reluctance to embrace vulnerability and let it flourish, and in doing so, laid the groundwork for strengthening connections, not just with Emily, but also within myself. This gathering had solidified my belief, vulnerability breeds authenticity and connection. Walking home that night, each step felt lighter than the last, a tangible release from years of apprehension. I took a deep breath, overwhelmed with satisfaction at what had been accomplished, not just in the art shared but in the emotional truths unveiled. I had navigated my fears, confronted my biases, and emerged triumphant. What lay ahead was a canvas yet to be painted, layers of dreams and aspirations waiting to embrace in the light of newfound connections. I felt renewed confidence coursing through me, a fire igniting to take on challenges together with Emily, pursuing our individual paths intertwined. I could now face any unexpected knock at my door, knowing the strength of my resolve was bolstered through collective understanding and shared courage. Life, I realized, would always present its uncertainties, but navigating them alongside others mattered most. It was time to embrace what lay ahead. Reflection was vital, but transformation was multidimensional, a journey we would both continue to explore. And as I walked, the horizon glimmered not just with fears but with the promise of a future one painted with vibrant colors and bold strokes of authenticity. Now, I invite you, dear viewer, to take a step towards your own journey. Don't hesitate, subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread the message of courage. Comment below to share your thoughts and theories about this conclusion. Your reaction matters. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need a spark of inspiration. You need to show your support for stories that uplift and transform lives.